Welcome back, everyone. Hello, hello. This is Amy. I am here again to introduce another artist, and I am so happy to see you all. I see a bunch of you in the Gather Gallery right now, and I'm sure there's some of you on YouTube, so thank you for tuning in. And next I have Roger Cheng. He's in the Gather Gallery. He's got some artwork up in there, and it's amazing. I really love this stuff. So without further ado, here is Roger.
Hello, everybody. I'm Roger, and I'm here to talk about my project for ART.HAPPENS that I made that I'm titling Bouncy Bouncy Lights. And let's see. Here we go. So Bouncy Bouncy Lights. Where is it? All right. What is it? Where is it? It's a digital interactive visual presentation, which is just a really long fancy talk way of saying it looks cool and it's fun to play with. That was all I was going for. It is on exhibit at the West Hall. This was a project for me to learn and create and share, and sharing not just the project itself, but also my experience doing this project, because I came into it as a beginner, as I will cover. Who is Roger? I will say upfront, I am not a professional or practicing or exhibiting artist. I hate the term real artist, but this is the way I'm saying it. My personal background is in software development, so very far removed my art from art. But I'm growing into electronics and mechanical hardware, and I'm starting to get into situations where aesthetics could be a part of my project. But most of my projects are still, I approach it as a mind of engineering tasks. Like we look at what are the objectives, what are the cost targets, what are the mechanical requirements. One of my flagship project is Soppy the Rover. Over, I see on the upper right corner of the screen, there's a picture of Soppy running around my backyard. Soppy is a little big too big to haul in front of the camera, but I've been making a mini-me for Soppy. This is a model that I've been making, hopefully in time for Perseverance landing, but I don't think I'll make it. And there's a little aesthetic touch, a little friendly, happy face. I have to thank Crash Space people for that. I did this during a Crash Space meet. So there's a little aesthetic touch here and there, but aesthetics usually has not been the focus. But there were a few projects. The most recent one is Glowflow here. It's an interactive LED project. We'll give it a second for the camera to catch up. And it's a rainbow, and it looks like it's inside this thing that I can pick up and shake and play with. It is also light and sound sensitive, though that is not as easy to show over a webcam. So I've done projects of those kinds for lights, for fun, for interactive entertainment. Really, I want people to pick it up and play with it. And personally, that was something that made me more interested in science and art, because science museums let you pick up and play with a lot of things, and art museums tend to frown on that. My preference is for the interactivity, and that's where I went for education and the career, but I still love the artistic side. So how did I get involved in ART.HAPPENS? So the initial reaction of being invited to see if I want to be on the art show as well, there must be some mistake. I am not an artist. You must want some other Roger. But after I read about what the show is about, it has an audience of artists who do this professionally all the time, full time, and they're just people who are interested in learning and creating and having fun. After I learned that, I was like, oh, okay, count me in. And based on the stories of what people have done for our past art shows of this nature, I intended to do something physical. It was going to be a follow-up to Glowflow, something with bright, shiny LEDs, and there's some level of interactivity. And then I got a preview of what the gather space was going to be, where the virtual gathering space for this gallery. And I was like, oh, wait, hold on. Now it's got other gears cranking, because I felt a virtual show is calls for digital art, because this way I can reintroduce interactivity back into my project. So becomes Glowflow not a physical, but a spiritual successor in the digital world. I want something bright and colorful. I want something that's simple to interact with. I'm not looking for a brain teaser puzzle, just something simple and fun. I want to build something that can't be physically built, because I want to take advantage of the medium, right? What I didn't want to just do something that I can do in the physical world if I have the advantages of a virtual world. First bullet here is pick and choose how much physics to obey. I really love this part. When I was playing with creation of something in a virtual world, I really was I really reminded of the Matrix, where they say, well, there's some rules that you can obey, some that can be bent, and here I am in charge of how much physics to obey, and it was a lot of fun. One of the things is all the individual elements look like cube, but they act like spheres. There are lights that shine, but you don't see the lights themselves. And unlike projects like Glowflow, I did not need to worry about where to run the wires for lights. I don't need to worry about battery running out. I don't need to worry about the proper gauge, proper soldering, not short circuiting. Is it going to set on fire? So this is probably not going to make much sense if you haven't seen Glowflow itself. So let's see Glowflow itself. Here it is running, and by default, it just has lights, bouncy, bouncy, as the name says. Each of these lights are randomly selected. Each of these balls just bounce around. They come into the world at a random angle and velocity, rotate at certain space. So what I was going for is a very laid back, relaxed, like a lava lamp. If you will. So it's kind of like the screensavers of old, back when we had CRTs that could be burned in and you need screensavers. Or there was an era where Macromedia Flash was new and people were figuring out what you can do with Flash online. And there are a lot of creations along these lines. And basically in the same spirit, because it was me learning how to run with this media. So here we have a little dark, mysterious. You can't actually tell they're cubes right off the bat. People may not enjoy this all the time. So I put in the interactivities. If I push in spacebar, I can add new lights. And if I hold down spacebar, it will go to a rate. So about quadruple the number of lights. At this point, they're still brightly colored lights, but you can very clearly see they are cubes. They're bouncing into each other, as if they were balls, because I am in charge of the physics. And if you don't like it coming towards you all the time, well, we can use the arrow keys, go to the left, arrows keys, go to the right, and one note for this exhibit inside the gather space, you have to click into my piece before the keyboard keys will work. So the rate is limited because there's a particular look I want. I wanted this dark, this cube, and a little more light is fine. But if I add too many lights, the lights wash each other out, and the bouncing gets completely chaotic. And it's not the look I wanted, but it's fun to bring up every once in a while. And there it is. So that is Bouncy Bouncy Lights in all its different forms. And the method of doing this is a tool that's been on my to-do list, something I wanted to learn for years at this point, actually. It's called Unity. And you would find it, search it online with Unity 3D, because Unity by itself is a tremendously generic term. So Unity 3D, just Unity. It's originally built for making games. It is still being used for making games. A lot of little indie games and some not so little not indie games are built with Unity. People who play with games will see this logo come up in the front with a little "Made in Unity." So that's familiar to them. And this is the editing tool for building games, and also architectural run-through, walkthroughs, engineering visualizations, and so forth. They're expanding their market. So the editor, where you pull everything together, it's Windows, it's Mac. They have a beta Linux client out. And what you do with Unity is it's think of it as a conductor for an orchestra, and all these individual instruments are the assets that you create in other tools. So for 2D art, you have Photoshop, you have Illustrator, Inkscape, you have 3D objects from Maya, Blender, musics, compositions, sound samples. You bring them all together inside Unity, and Unity lets you orchestrate like when is something shown to the user, and under what circumstances it comes up, under what circumstances it goes away. So it is a very powerful tool to bring them all together into an interactive experience. So even though the editor itself runs on desktop computers, I would say earlier, but then the results can go out to all kinds of different places where people might want something like this. It goes out to computers, it goes out to game consoles. You can generate an app to go on the App Store for Apple iOS devices, Google Android devices, phones, tablets, and very important for Gather, for Art Happens, is that you can also generate it for a website. So this tremendously powerful, flexible piece of software shares it's like Photoshop, Illustrator, Maya, and it shares a common problem with all those software pieces, which is when a beginner first brings them up, the beginner first sight of Unity, a blank project, it looks like this. There are so many things going on, and the beginner will have a very typical reaction of this. This is fine. Unity knows this. It can be daunting for beginners to see this tremendous selection of tools that you don't know what to do with. So Unity, the reason I like them and chose to learn this tool is that they know this, and they've always been working to minimize barriers to entry. They have continue and plan to continue for the foreseeable future to continue minimizing barriers to entry. First one, of course, is money. And Unity Editor is free to download and use. The asterisk is once you start actually making money, they're going to want to cut. But we don't have to get into that right now. Tutorial and references are free. A lot of resources they put online. The asterisk is they also do have paid training programs where if you found some professional to come and look at you, evaluate your progress, and give actual feedback. Those did cost money. Although early in the pandemic, there was a period where they were even offering that for free for people who are stuck at home and wanted to learn this. There's an asset store. So I talked about art and music and sound. And if you don't know how to create one or more of those things yourself, there's like an app store for apps on the phone. There's an asset store for assets that you can bring into Unity and then orchestrate as you see fit. There are some people who sell these for a living, so those are paid offerings. But there are also free ones that you can use to get started. You don't need to be an artist or musician to start playing with Unity. But of course, it helps if you are. And to orchestrate them, there are chunks of code. They call them scripts. It's in a language called C#. If you know what it is, great. If you don't, not important right now. And to orchestrate them, because there's all these samples, you don't need to know how to write code. It helps if you do, and it helps if you can look at a piece of code and have a general idea what it is trying to do. But you don't need to be able to write it from scratch. So if you're thinking of like a human spoken language, I can understand Mandarin Chinese being spoken at me, but I don't necessarily know how to speak sentences on my own. And that's about the level. That's all you need to get started. So there's all these resources, but then you have an embarrassment of riches. Well, where do you start? What do you look at first? And where do you start? Unity knows this, got that feedback, and what they built is what they call a microgame, which is a pre-packaged bundle of all of these things that you can start as a starting point. So what it is, all the basic pieces of a tiny little game are included. It's a game that's so simple that you would never actually find one on the App Store. There are multiple microgames available representing different genres, and they are immediately playable when you start out, when you get to download the package and launch it. But it's incomplete. Who's going to complete it? You are going to learn Unity Editor by filling in the gaps, following these microgame tutorials. And there's 2 stages to these microgames that they've organized. There's a tutorial, which is a very tightly scripted activity on Rails. They tell you to do something, and then you look around, try to figure out how to do what they tell you. You do it, and then you move on to the next step. After you pass the tightly scripted tutorial, there's a section they call creative mods, where they have a lot of ideas and suggested ideas and pointers to resources. Like, well, it'd be fun to add this to your game, and you can do it however you like. And here are the resources for you to reference when you need it. So it starts getting you into using their huge library of reference material and teaching you how to fish, basically. So here's an example of a microgame. A microgame in the middle of a tutorial. This shows that the pane on the right has tutorial instructions, and on the left is Unity Editor, but Unity Editor completely locked down. This is the first thing that you do in the Lego microgame. Just step 2 in the tutorial. And if you see in the top center, there's a play button that is highlighted in blue. What the tutorial does is it just blocks out everything else. It fades it out to gray. So you see just that one button, and the blue border actually is posting. It's click here. So it starts with this. There's just one button you can click. You can't shoot yourself in the foot by clicking the wrong thing. And then as the tutorial progresses, it lets you do more and more and more until you get to the creative mods, where you have access to the entire Unity editor. By that point, you should hopefully know enough not to shoot yourself in the foot. Or if you do, you know how to fix it. That is the plan. That doesn't always go to plan. I speak from firsthand experience, but it is a very gradual guide, training wheels to the whole Unity process. The other thing I want to remark here is the microgame. The figure in the foreground looks like a Lego figure, but that's intentional, because this particular microgame actually is based on Lego. They have a license from the Lego group, and it's very amusing to me, because Unity tries to pull in assets and have you put code and art and music together like as easy as Lego pieces. And now in the Lego microgame tutorial, they literally are Lego pieces. And I found that hilarious and very enjoyable as I ran through the tutorial. So after I run through making a little Lego microgame, I was still some distance away from being able to create my own thing. It's because what these microgames do is they give you familiarity with how to use a Unity editor, but not yet how to create something from scratch, because the Lego microgame gave you all kinds of assets to begin with, and they were already mostly hooked up, and we're just doing the finishing touches as our tutorial process. So as I mentioned, there's tons of resources on that Unity offers. The central hub is a site they call Unity Learn. There's a URL there. So many tutorials, so many documents. Where do you start? And again, they say, okay, we hear this as feedback, so we're going to have pre-packaged bundles for Unity Learn. And what they call these are pathways. This is a lesson plan, basically, for running through some things that you need to know for taking a particular path through Unity education. So it looks like the very first one, the foundational one, called Unity Essentials. That was released just a few months ago. So this is very new, and they're putting more up as they go. One thing that's interesting to me on Unity Essentials was that there's also a lot of career advice for people who think they might want to go into using Unity or building games and such as a career. So like what the job titles are, what the career paths are. It was not what my interest, but I thought it was very good for them to also have that as a resource for the people who might want it. So after I went through the Unity Essentials pathways, I knew enough to get started. Like I knew how to start fishing for myself. And what I did was I want something physical. So bouncing balls. Bouncing balls is the classic computer graphics introduction. And I wanted lights, so I added lights to the balls. I didn't really like how it looked on a ball, so I turned the balls into cubes. And I was like, I like how that looked a lot better. But then cubes, sometimes when cubes fall, they don't bounce, they don't roll. And so, well, but I like how I like behavior of balls, but I like how the looks of the cubes. So what do I do? And that's when I had the light bulb moment of, I'm in charge of the physics here. I'm in charge of this world. So they look like cubes and bounce like balls. Then I start reading more about Unity, or how do I do the random colors, the random rotation, the random position. And then I had read a different section on how to add keyboard interactivity. These are things that were not explicitly covered in the microgame or the essential pathway, but they set up the foundation for me to go look and learn on my own and to do it. At this point, most Bouncy Bouncy Lights itself is functionally done. And then I started doing my own extra credits. All right, I need to put my name in my piece. I need to put a little instructions on what you do, and then my own name and a URL to my blog site for this particular project. So that is very quickly what the process that I went through for doing Bouncy Bouncy Lights. I will take a few minutes. Yes, we have time. I'll take a few minutes to show you what Bouncy Bouncy Lights look like in the Unity editor. So what's on screen is on the middle of left is what you see as the final result. But what you see in the center here is the three-dimensional view of Bouncy Bouncy Lights running live. And as in the editor, I can pause the action and then look at a particular cube, and it'll show me its position, color, all these traits, and then I can watch them live as the title is running. I can look at it from different perspective. If we're going to go back to the Matrix movie example, this view is what the operator sees as it guides through our heroes running through the world. And I'm not going to go through too much of what we see here, because I'm not trying to run a Unity editor, Unity tutorial. There's already a website for that. So my understanding as a beginner that I want to share with everybody who may not know, have not looked at all, is my understanding is that Unity is a tool, and like every tool, it has strengths and weaknesses. It is probably not the best choice for something that is passive, non-interactive. So if you're trying to make the next Pixar short, where you're just watching a movie, a cartoon, a short story, there's no interactive, completely passive. Unity is probably not the best tool for that. If you need precision for scientific tasks, engineering tasks, so visualizing something to see how it looks is great, but you wouldn't use it to actually see if a particular item is strong enough for a task. It's probably not the best choice for something completely fantastical. If you want to do a Dali painting comes to life with a clock oozing across the landscape, Unity might not be the best tool for that. I could be wrong. I'm just a beginner. I don't know all that it could do. So if there's anything that shares traits with what we associate with video games, user interactivity, we have some approximation of reality. For a while, realism is a big thing in video games. Oh, this is so realistic. We don't necessarily are infatuated with that anymore, but Unity has a lot of that. And if you want something that runs on computers, video consoles, web browsers, VR, search, Unity is a good tool. And yes, you can make games too. So Unity is now in my bag of tricks. I went from only knowing Unity in a general sense to being able to build Bouncy Bouncy Lights. It was roughly approximately 2 weeks of part-time study. Your pace will vary. Bouncy Bouncy Lights barely scratch the surface of everything Unity can do. And I will tell you that it's a beginner project. But now I know enough to quickly whip up quick tests, silly gags. I want to bring up one real quick. Is this my friend Emily? If you follow her on Twitter, she loves her cat. The cat sometimes loves her back, and she tweets about the cat a lot. And then there's a video with her cat doing the tail. So I built a little Unity tool, Unity app that just is a tail back and forth. That took me about half an hour because we didn't know what to do. But once I figured out how that was done, I took another set of Twitter pictures, and there's just hovering in front of the Twitter. That was less than 5 minutes of work. So now it's a tool for building something fun, silly, whatever I want to do at the time very quickly. So, oops. So should you add Unity for your bag of tricks? Well, that's up to you. Unity really has really quick adoption of new technologies. Whatever is hot, and people say, "Oh, I want to build this in Unity," and they say, "We're on it," and then it'll come out very quickly. An example I can think of was when Pokemon Go became a thing, and people went to Unity. Oh, I want to be able to build AR experiences with GPS, and Unity. Okay, if you want to build your own Pokemon Go, we have the technology for you, and they have that very quickly. Now, since I'm new and haven't been in this world for very long, I don't know if they just drop passing fads very quickly. I don't know if they're like Google that just kills everything after 2 or 3 years. That I don't know yet. I can say for certain they have lots and lots of learning resources. The problem become to the point where the problem is now there's too many and don't know where to go. And there's constantly more. They have a vested interest in adding everyone to their user base because they want the more people that come in, the more people can use it, the more they get their name out, and the more it's just a raw number. Some percentage of people using Unity are going to hit it big, and at that point, Unity is, all right, great. We like to collect our royalties now. So they have a business interest in adding people to their ranks. So that is my experience of making Bouncy Bouncy Lights with the Unity 3D, the tool that I think is excellent consideration if you want to do anything with you have an artistic idea that it's something that Unity can build. Hopefully have a good idea of what it's like to get started and what you can do with very little work. And then if you go online and look at what other people have built with Unity, you can see that the sky is the limit. That I have not found a place where Unity will be the constraint in something that I can't do. Whether it's the best thing, not necessarily, but you could do it, absolutely. So my name is Roger. It has been my pleasure to share my experience here. I am most active on my blog, newscrewdriver.com, where I document all of my projects, mechanical, electrical, software, and Bouncy Bouncy Lights. The most recent posts are about with more details go into more detail about what I encountered and problem solved to build Bouncy Bouncy Lights. I'm also on Twitter semi-regularly. GitHub, all my code is on GitHub. If you want to see what code I'm writing recently, it is almost certainly public on GitHub. Not as active on Instagram and YouTube, but I'm there too. All right. I think we have a few minutes left. If we can open it up to Q&A.
Yeah, Roger, that was so fun. I learned so much, and I know there's other questions in here coming in now. People want to know. It's similar to what I was thinking. Do you have plans for other projects you want to do with Unity?
So yes, and it actually brings up an exception. What I said is if you have a passive experience, it may not be the best for Unity, except if you want to do virtual reality storytelling, because even though on a user experience side, a virtual reality film is not an interactive experience. The VR headset itself is something you can move around, move in the world, and that, from a technical perspective, is the interactivity section, and that is something that Unity is good at. I wanted to explore VR, AR because of a VR headset, and it is a new world, and I think there's cool things to be done there.
Yeah, I was also thinking, do you want to now work on challenging physics and build a cube that bounces. That's not in a video game.
Oh gosh.
Like one that you could really. I guess you could. It could be rubber or some kind of material, but I would like it to like glow, like your projects you have. I want it to light up somehow, but not be anything. I want it to be sturdier. Like, what's the materials you used for your Glowflow?
Oh, Glowflow is 3D printed plastic. It's fairly
hard.
sturdy.
Mm-hmm.
It is hard. The outside shell is flexible, but this is hard. Doing flexible items in 3D printing is difficult. It would be a lot easier in the virtual world, yes. And yes, you can absolutely build something completely sturdy in Unity world, and then you hurl against the wall and define what happens. Right? You can say it falls downward, except when you throw it hard enough, it falls upward. These are things you can do when you define the rules.
I like that a lot. I love that you were here with us, Roger, because now I'm thinking about things. I want to know, Barb wants to know if Glowflow can be her camping light. So I'm thinking, are there wires? You mentioned wires. Do we have to plug this in? Do we have to have a backup battery with us, or is there a solar power one?
Are we referring to Glowflow now?
Glowflow, yeah.
Okay. Glowflow runs on battery. Mm-hmm. These two large blocks are batteries. And this will last about an afternoon. I don't know about camping light and all the requirements of camping light. The electronics are exposed. I think at the very least, you need to put some water resistance on there. I haven't thought about trying to run this on solar power. But this is actually a fairly significant amount of energy capacity in these batteries. It is not the most energy efficient light for camping. But we can talk about that. But that's not in Unity.
No, that'll be fun. That'll be maybe a real event with Crash Space where you all have your own Glowflows.
Yeah, I would love that.
I can go and gather you. Money who's been watching us. And catch us again on YouTube if you want to remember where all the Unity websites and all the information that Roger has shared with us. But thank you again, Roger. It's been lots of fun. I hope that you are in another future art show with us. So, thank everyone for watching.
Thank you.